Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Another ugly road loss for this 76er squad as they fall in Indiana, and things got horrendous late, and things were horrendous throughout the entire game, specifically the three-point shooting, 6 of 33, which is 18.2%. That's absolutely ridiculous. We knew that this team would struggle when it came to shooting the basketball. This isn't it. I mean, this is to an extreme of ugly shooting. They are better than this, and a lot of people are going to come after Brett Brown, and that's a hot item because the team is underachieving, so I understand, but why don't you share the same energy towards the players? I didn't like Brett Brown in this game, I'll be honest with you. I thought down the stretch there were some ugly possessions and things didn't really run smoothly. That always goes towards the coach, and I'll dive into it as we get into the later part of the game. But I find it funny that a team, the players can shoot very poorly from three and miss wide open looks, and somehow they don't ever get blamed. Like, my first reaction is, hit your damn shots. You can't go 6 of 33. When you look at what the Pacers did, the Pacers shot under 40%. They shot 38% from the field. That's a position for the Sixers to win a game. Like, if the Pacers are going to shoot under 40%, the Sixers are in position to win a basketball game. It comes down to those players knocking down shots, and they were not able to do it. Mike Scott, pathetic once again, really hurting this basketball team. Ben Simmons in the second half, pathetic. He had 4 total points, 0 in the fourth quarter. Al Horford, 0 points. When you look at the fourth quarter as a whole, Josh Richardson was the guy. He was the only guy in the fourth quarter willing to really make anything happen. He had 17 points in the fourth quarter. So I understand the frustration towards Brett Brown. When teams underachieve, that's who gets the blame. That's any sport ever, so I understand. But why do the players get off free? Why? Why do they? They missed open shots. They weren't as open as they have been. What was the game that they played last? The Dallas Mavericks? That was noticeably, insanely wide open without guys within 8 feet of them, and it was clank, clank, clank. It wasn't to this degree. It wasn't to that degree in this game, but I'm sorry. I put this on the players for being abysmal when it comes to shooting the ball. Tobias Harris, I need more out of you. He has been totally disappointing throughout the last few games. He went on a tear, he went on a stretch, and then now things are falling back the other way, and he has not been good enough. The bench as a whole, Furkan Korkmaz playing 20-plus minutes, 1 shot with that three-pointer, right? I mean, come on, Furkan Korkmaz, you gotta be better. Trey Burke, pathetic, to the point where Raul Neto had to come in and he actually provided spark. Who else was awful in this one? I mentioned Al Horford, and guess what? We can go to Ben. Ben was magnificent in the first half. 20 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, electrifying dunks, was all downhill, put his head down, went to the basket hard, and I tweeted in excitement, and all the replies, which I was laughing at the time because I knew it was going to be true, was, well, what are you going to say when he has 4 points the next half, or what are you going to say when he has 2 points in the next half? And I was laughing because I knew it was going to be real, and it absolutely was. So all around, the team has to be better. The players have to play better. Now let's go to the coach and talking about what happened late. I thought from about the 5-minute mark on in that fourth quarter, they weren't getting clean looks. Josh Richardson threw up a prayer 3 that was big. But other than that, Matisse Thybulle's leaving his feet, driving the baseline, and throwing it to Ben Simmons when there were 4 Pacers surrounding him. That last play call where Tobias Harris got swatted at the 3-point line, the coach's job at the end of the game is to dial up a clean look. It was sniffed out insanely, sniffed out so easily by the Pacers, and they were able to block it by the perimeter. It has to be a better play than that. You throw the inbound to Al Horford, to give it to Toby. Toby just goes up with it. Now, I don't think it was a great play, to be honest with you, because the other team easily defended it and found out what it was going to be instantly. But I also need to look at Tobias and say, At some point, right, you need your instinct to come in. We've all played sports before. Whatever your sport is, you've played it before. Sometimes your instinct comes in and your basketball IQ comes in, and at that point, you can't go up with the shot. If the shot's not there, you can't go up with the shot when there's a defender right there ready to swat it away. So I didn't like the play call. I didn't like Brett Brown down the stretch in this one, which is a common theme with him. Absolutely. Everyone wants to get on me for being a Brett Brown guy. He wasn't good enough in this game, and I didn't like him at all when it mattered down the stretch in this one. I will be totally open about it. I'm always open about it when he struggles, and in this one, he absolutely struggled. But you can't just not look at the players. The players aren't playing well enough. Let me say it again. The players are not playing well enough. They're not shooting well enough, and that's the reason why. If they knock down 4 more three-pointers, well, it's a totally different ball game. If it's not like those threes throughout the game weren't open. It's not as if they're jacking up these ugly-looking threes. They had 50 points in the paint as well, may I add. So I do think they need to go to the free throw line more. 19 total isn't enough. But as a whole, they scored in the paint. It comes down to knocking down their shots. Once again, they are not a great shooting team, but they're not this bad either. They're not. You can be frustrated and pissed off in the moment and claim that they are, but in reality, they are not to this degree when it comes to ugly and hideous basketball from 3. Now, I got so fired up, I forgot to mention my sponsor, SeatGeek. Are you looking for free money? Well, I can give you free money when buying tickets. If you want to go to a Sixers game, a Flyers game, or any game out there, if you use the promo code BRODES at SeatGeek's checkout page, you will receive $20 off of your total purchase. And that, my friends, is free parking. Or it's free beer, free food. It's a no-brainer to use the promo code BRODES today. It was definitely another ugly one. They are 7-14 on the road. I just talked about this yesterday when I was discussing Joel Embiid's injury, how it will affect the team, and I talked about how I have changed my thoughts about this team. I have changed my expectations. That was the word I was looking for. I said, I know this team isn't an NBA Finals team. I know what they are. They're pretty much, realistically, what they have been over the last couple years. And people want to go right to Brett Brown about that, but I think it has to do with the players. The players are the ones playing the game, right? They're not playing good enough. And you notice the difference when Joel Embiid is out there and not. Everyone was excited about how Ben Simmons can play without Joel Embiid, and they wanted to trade Joel because you can surround Ben with shooters. Ben is important. Even though he's frustrating, he's important. Joel is important as well. And you can just see the difference. What Joel Embiid does offensively when he puts himself in the paint, it opens up other situations. It changes everything. Joel Embiid changes everything, and you're starting to realize what this team is without someone as good as Joel Embiid. He's frustrating at times too, no doubt about it. But he's still very important. You're talking about arguably the first, second best center in the league. That changes everything on both sides of the floor. And when he went out, I was concerned. Like, is this team going to drop games? Is this team going to fall in the standings and not hold pace to what they need to? And it's looking that way. They are now in the 6th seed. We are the Boston Celtics of last season. And when expectations are so hot and heavy right from the jump, there's a lot of pressure put on teams, and they're not living up to it. And it happens. I mean, realistically, it happens. We just watched it happen with the Boston Celtics with Kyrie Irving, and now you're watching it with the Philadelphia 76ers. But once you realize it, and once you change your expectations, yeah, of course, it still hurts and it's still emotional and you get fired up inside watching those last 5 minutes play out. But, you know what the team is. You know what the team is once you realize that they're not an NBA Finals type team. And as I stated, you will get upset, but you won't get as upset. TJ McConnell out there making TJ McConnell type plays, and he made one bucket. He ended up stealing the ball. I think it was from Raul Neto. And here's the thing. I watched two guys not communicate with him. When he's coming from the backside, you got to scream, hey, man, there's a guy on you. That's communication. That's on the teammates, because there's no way he's going to know someone's behind him. You got to talk. You got to communicate. TJ McConnell makes a steal. He dives on his stomach, and his face almost hits the hardwood. He makes a pass to a dunk play or to a layup. I forget if it was a dunk or a layup. I think it was a dunk, but it was a huge momentum changer. Typical TJ McConnell. He TJ McConnelled the Sixers. We saw that for years, and now he did it against us. Brogdon made some shots when needed, and TJ Warren seems to be a mini killer of the Sixers. He's been going off every single time these two opponents match up. He shot 8 of 13 and had 21 points. I don't know what to tell you right now, because I just watched the team do what they needed to do in the first quarter. I'm sorry, the first half. Ben Simmons, 20 points, looking like another level, going on these insane runs individually. The monster dunks, taking it hard to the rack, putting his shoulders down, taking on anyone, not being afraid to go as hard to the rim as humanly possible, almost breaking down the rim at times. And he gets 4 points in the second half and none in the fourth quarter. How? It hurts my brain. Once again, it is a tale of two halves. I hate that is the same conversation and the same theme when it comes to this 76ers squad. What are we going to do with Mike Scott? Can we actually continue to play him? He's flat out awful. Awful! He's awful! I can't even stand watching him play anymore, really. It's getting to that point. How did he drop off to this degree? To the point of unplayable. It's maddening. And now the Sixers return home for a couple games. Who do they play? The Nets on Wednesday. Then they have the Chicago Bulls. Two teams where they stink. And the Sixers being on their home court probably will take care of business, but who am I to say that right now? I know about halfway through the season when I realized this Sixers team struggled, I mentioned how no one's appreciating the home wins because everyone's all disappointed if they keep losing on the road, and they can't put value in those wins that are at home because they know, well, they can't get it done on the road. And at that time, I said that's nonsense. But now, right, and now that they're 7-14 on the road in 21 attempts, it's starting to reach a whole nother level of disappointing and a whole nother level of concern when it comes to the road games. I gave them time. I gave them time to figure it out. I said, listen, I'm not going to overreact too soon. I got to have a good sample size to see if they can snap out of it. Well, they can't snap out of it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be okay if they win against the Nets and the Bulls, and I had to pull myself away because I wasn't going to say happy, because I will be okay if they win, because they should win, and they're on their home floor, and they need to take care of business. So I'm not going to be thrilled if they win. I'll be okay, because that's what they need to do. And that's what's next on the schedule. I can't harm them, and I can't be pissed off that that's what's next on the schedule. They need to take care of business. But I'm at the point now where, come on. You got to find ways to win on the road, and it's starting to get to a whole nother level of ridiculous when it comes to this team. This is a game where they fell apart late in the game, and as you've seen throughout the tenure of Brett Brown, it is something that happens a lot, and it needs to change. You didn't have your superstar Joel Embiid, and that can't get thrown out the window. But here's the thing. You're going to go through a tough stretch without him, and you're going to have to win games. At the end of the season, no one goes, well, you placed this seed, but it doesn't matter because Joel Embiid wasn't in the mix because he had surgery on his hand. No. So these games count just as much without Joel Embiid than they would have with Joel Embiid. It's crazy because when I look at Tobias Harris, we all knew he wasn't a max player, but you keep him. It's sort of like Chris Middleton with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's not a max player, but he's the player they need, and to keep him, they paid the max. Well, Tobias Harris is our version of that. There's only a few guys worth the legit max. LeBron, Kevin Durant, those type of players, James Harden, max players. Well, when you look at Tobias, you had to keep him, right? But who's the closer on this team right now? When Tobias was going through that good stretch, I thought it would be him. It's definitely not him. It's Josh Richardson right now. Of all people, it's Josh Richardson right now. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. It will not be good enough. He's a nice player. He can't be our go-to closer when needed. I need it to be Tobias Harris, but it doesn't look like it's going to be him. And that irritates me. He's a Donovan Mitchell. He's a guy who's going to put up 25 shots to score 25 points. Now, at times, I'm not going to hate it. At times, it's going to crush me. It just depends on the eye test and how it looked in that specific game. But that's what he is. He puts up a ton of shots, and he scores pretty much the amount of shots he takes. He scores the amount of points. Really, is what I get out of Tobias Harris when he plays. He needs to knock down the threes, though. When you have a poor performance from three like that out of Tobias, it kills this team. 6 of 33, 18.2%. That is so terrible. It's terrible. And I know when people look at that, what do they go to? They go to Brett Brown saying, we want to hunt threes. And people tie it together instantly and say it's Brett Brown's fault because of that. 33 threes is standard in the NBA. They scored 50 points in the paint. Where you can look at what they needed more, probably to get to the free throw line, because 19's not enough, but they scored 50 points in the paint, and 33 threes is pretty standard in this league. Knock down your shots. Make your shots. And this team is better than 18.2%. Going into this game, they were 12th in the NBA when it came down to three-pointers. They aren't as bad as it seems, but over the last two games, it has been. It has been. Do you think maybe them being 12th in the NBA in threes at one point, that was the outlier and this is reality? I can't say that that's true. I can't. I don't know what this team is going to have to do. 46 points in the second half total. They came out in the third quarter, and I think they scored 20 total points. They had a big lead, and the lead fell apart. That's pretty standard. That's absolutely pretty standard when it comes to this team. So, I know a lot of people want to trade this guy, trade that guy, move on from this guy, get rid of the coach, fire out on Brand. That's not how sports works. It's just not how sports works. What they're going to have to do is try and acquire bench help. I didn't like Matisse's game. I haven't liked what Matisse brought to the table since he's been back from injury. He's barely made any shots. He went on a big streak of not making any shots. He ended up having that dunk when Ben Simmons made a really nice pass to him on the inside. He had a steal and a block. At one point, he did what he normally does when it comes to creating energy. But all around, he's not producing enough for me when it comes to offense. What you can do at this moment is add bench depth. The Luke Kennard, the Galloway, that type of player. And you got to hope for the best and hope that they find ways to make this thing work and fix some rotations and move some guys around and figure out what's going to happen. But that's why I always date it back to what happened with Joel Embiid. And the fact that he's not on the floor is going to kill this squad because we need to find ways to make this work. And without him being in the lineup and without him being available to play, it's totally crucifying this stretch of important games because they need to learn. The only way to learn is to get experience out on the floor. And that's not how it's going to be right now. So, the Nets and the Bulls. The Nets and the Bulls. two very beatable teams at the Wells Fargo Center. They're going to have to pray for some luck. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to pray that the teams above them start to fall and go on a little bit of a stretch of bad basketball so they can help improve. Because there's no way in hell you can just assume the Sixers are going to win all the games that they're supposed to. There's going to be games where they fall flat on their face. They're going to lose some more crappy games, and they're going to be very disappointing at times. So you got to hope for the teams above them, Miami, Toronto, Boston, Indiana. You got to hope that they fall on their face as well. That's the only way the Sixers are going to be able to jump over teams and get to where they need to be. Like, people wanted to talk about the first, second seed. Well, that's just not a thing. And people still want to talk about the second seed. That's not a thing. It's just not a thing. There's nothing that has shown me that it will be, and we are deep enough in the season. We got to hope for a third or fourth. That's where we're at. And we got to hope for that. We got to hope they find a way. It's not like it's a monstrous gap still. It's still in play, and we're a decent amount into the season, but there's still a decent amount left, so it's not all over. But first and second seed, it doesn't seem realistic. We're looking at trying to get a third, fourth. Third, if we're lucky. Fourth is probably more realistic. That's where this Sixer squad is right now. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and I will see you next time.